So I'm not sure what to do here yet. Maybe I'll just pull out a nail. Wonder why those nails were there. What is happening under here? Well, this is attached to the building. Pretty securely enough. It's this board here is not attached to this board here, and so how to do that? How can we do that? Well, we could use a lot of fiberglass and epoxy. That would be one way to do it. This looks like this board needs to be replaced. If I can get it off more or less in one or two pieces, I can use it to copy. Come on, don't get too many pieces. How can I get this out? So how can we bring this all together? I could get a Tapcon through there, and how can I? This would just maybe keep it in place. Over here. I don't want to pull that up until I make all this solid. I mean, taking this whole thing apart and cutting that, you're going to spend a lot of time, and we're going to use some aircraft building technology here. Alright, I made a foray to the hardware store and got a new bucket, yay, and some gap filler for the ridges, and I decided I want to attach that to the wall before I bond this all together. And I decided to use the auto body routine instead of the aircraft routine. So I'll be using a polyester resin instead of an epoxy resin. And I bought new bits, even though I am 99% certain that I have these bits. And this is the 1/4 inch by 4 inch Tapcon. Now I selected a bit that's big enough that will pass the Tapcon screw through the wood, but not the head. And then I'll drill the slot, the opening for the threads in the brick. And I'm going to do this on an angle, and I particularly like that because if you went straight in, the tension wants to pull the brick straight out, and that would be much more possible than if I went in at an angle and the pressure wants the brick to turn to come out. So we're trading tension for compression. It's going to want to try to compress the mortar rather than just pull out. So that's the plan. All right, so let's see how this goes. As I was saying, if you're charging a couple $100 an hour, and I have authorization from the homeowner of up to $5,000 to deal with this. Now for that amount of money I could rebuild half this roof, but still I have a lot of leeway here to do whatever I want, and I could justify taking this all apart, cutting these complicated angles, complex, and building this all new. But I'm going to spend a few hours, hopefully, and rework this thing to better than what I could do otherwise. So if I did it new. So I'm going to come in here at an angle. I'm aiming for the middle of that brick there. And so I now need to drill the hole in the brick. Well, let's say just for some crazy reason I didn't happen to have the right bit, and so I stop and go back to the hardware store to get the right brick. And it cost them a couple $100 when I could have spent $10 in insurance. I don't know exactly what I hit. It didn't feel like I expected. So this is one of these things where you get paid for what you know. Not so much for what you do, but what you know. So it just spins. In fact, it doesn't even spin to come out. All right, so let's do this again. Maybe I can get some good wood. I don't want to, I'm gonna aim for this brick here. I don't want to have to rebuild this thing. I don't see that it's really necessary to make sure it works. Hammer drill cord. Now here's a thing that could not be working. Is this thing, this drill bit is specified for going through concrete, and this brick is soft, so I might need to size it down. So I'm gonna go gently, 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 gently. And it is in there. With some heavy-duty, strong, permanent bond will outlast the project. Bond's all common construction materials is waterproof and weatherproof. Bond's wooden, right? Everything we need in a can. And if this falls off, it's gonna be, who makes this shit? Oh, excuse my language. It's gonna be, oh, PPG, Pittsburgh Paint. Get a lot of it in there so it's extra strong and extra permanent. You never have enough permanency, can we? So there. Attachment spot. You see, if I have the next size down drill bit, right? They wanted a 3/16. That's what that is. So what's 32nd, or what's something less than that? Made in Germany, SDS. 5/32. That didn't feel very good. And here we go into this piece. Now, why do you suppose that stopped going in there? Is it not reach the masonry yet? Coating is not to make any kind of bond, but to give us a surface that the liquid polyester can bond to, rather than skipping over gaps and uneven things. We want the fiberglass to be able to have contact, and this is what is going to give us this contact. Boy, there is heat coming out of this, and one impact to that is gonna be, this stuff is gonna set up very quickly. All right, so that will present a relatively smooth surface to the honeybee that's visiting us, to the now we can do this to the glass, the fiberglass resin. We can do this because they're both polyester resins. You wouldn't be able to get away with this as easily. In other words, if this is still wet, that's fine. And as this starts setting up, it'll also it'll pass on that catalytic reaction to this resin that we're going to mix up here. Yeah, that's still just a little soft. I was planning on using this whole container to put this resin in. So this is the hardener, and I may actually do that in the end. So bad. Oops, just went in the wrong place there. So apparently you don't, I mean, I used like a third of a tube, then I surely didn't pull out a third of a tube of pour out a third of a tube of this. I'm going to just dump this in here, stir it up, and I have enough hardener in there to catalyze a third of this, so I'm just going to add a little more, although I'm not anywhere near a third. And this stuff can go off really fast, a lot faster than what epoxy does. And I thought I packed my scissors. It's still a little tacky. It's about at the point where you could use the Sureform shaper. But uh-oh, look at this. This is starting to set up. I need to work fast, 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 fast. Get wet underneath there, otherwise we're not going to be doing much good. Okay, looking good. Now I'm going to put another piece over there. There is this is still a little wet. That's good. Good, good, good. So this won't be ready to go into space or high altitudes like it would if we were using epoxy, but it will be street ready. And this will even adhere this whole thing to the brick, where it goes up on the brick. This stuff is tenacious. Get the air bubbles out. Just make sure it's completely adhered. And we have a tiny bit of juice left here, so let's take advantage of this here situation and use it as an additional attachment point to the building by putting this up against the wall and attaching it to, see, I can't, I have to get my fingers in there. This looks like I'm doing very little, but I can't imagine what this extra, look at that, now it's getting to where it's setting up. This will attach the whole thing to the brick in yet another spot. So we have it attached to the wall here. And this is, where's my hammer? This is attached. Now, we don't even have our guaranteed for the life of the project adhesive dry yet. Now we have these tampons in there, and if all they do is just hang it to keep it from coming down, that's an accomplishment. But this is in there. Look at that. That is sturdy in there now. Now this, might be a loose connection down here. Yeah, I think that's just that one nail. Okay, these pieces are in. This is on. I need to put the waterproof membrane on, or felt. Old ugly cut. And then just leave well, come on. And then with this small strip that's easy to bend around, I can make the cut more precise. I might want to bend that around, so I'm going to come out here and that way the piece that you want is not distorted. And I need to cut this and then put the nailer, bridge nailer on. Alright, I readjusted this. This one still needs to be readjusted, but I want to put a little dab of adhesive, silicone in there. And this is attached, and I'm going to run this tile up here. Something like this. Okay, I almost forgot to put the water and ice protection, so I have it on there. That looks like a negative seam, but if water does get in there, it's on top of this other piece. I just could have trimmed it back, but didn't. Now this piece is a little better fit. Maybe even too long, but I don't think it's going to matter. The critical thing is that this is in the same row because the hip starter has a groove that this tile will set into, and that sets the distance. Now this piece needs to be trimmed off here, and looks like here as well. I have a hunch that the nails that would go through these holes are so close to the edge and that it would split, or the wood's not particularly good there, so I wired it in place. I don't think I'm too close. I laid this row backwards, that is from the left to right, because these overlap the other way, so I had to underlay it like so. And the reason I did that is if I would have started from this side, I wouldn't be so sure about how far up and down to put this. But if I start on that side, see, I even have a little deviation there. But if I could at least make it look uniform from the ground. Now, I made these cuts here, so I'll tie the wire on the back, and the wire will go across the front, and the knot will not kick the tile up, and the front of the wire will be up underneath the mortar. And so I didn't have enough of these eave closures. I had some in the shop, and these were made in Chicago, as I pointed out earlier. And when this roof fails, because these pieces fail, well, I'll be dead, you'll be dead, the owner of this building will be dead, everybody that's living in the building will be dead, the people who are now own Ludowici will be dead. By the time this fails, everybody will be that is alive now will be dead, unless there's some breakthrough in science. So I will need to put my nail, let's see, I don't want it to make it twist to the right, so I'll have to put the nail here and wrap it around the nail there. I came along and siliconed every one of these tile to each other, someplace you can't see, some you can, so if anybody ever tears into this, they'll know what to expect. And I just can't afford to have this fall off, and as I reported in a previous video, I siliconed a tile that was broken in 5 places because I didn't have a replacement tile. Then some 15 or 20 years, I pulled that tile out and I threw it on the ground, and it didn't phase it one bit. It was glued together every bit as good as it was from day one. So now I can lay from right to left, since I got this more or less in, and it's hard to tell. This fascia was not put up here plumb, or rather level, so I'm going to measure down 3 inches across here and start laying up from right to left. 100 years ago, they would use newspaper to stuff this, so they wouldn't have to use so much mortar. But we now have polyurethane, and if I can put this in there and without getting too much outside,